Will brief the media today on details of government interventions following the announcement of the lockdown. For more on today's ministerial address, let's cross live to our reporter, Chriselda Lewis, who is in Pretoria at the moment. Chriselda, good morning to you. I know that there are different briefings scheduled for different times by different clusters. Obviously, I see that you're, I think, at DIRCO, the Department of International Relations. What's going to be briefed on there?
Well, Leanne, let's start here. I heard you use the word unprecedented, and it certainly is that decision that President Cyril Ramaphosa made while addressing the nation last night. The president certainly needed to be seen to be acting decisively when he announced that lockdown from Thursday at midnight. And you'd know that South Africa is the only country following Rwanda, so making it the second country on the continent to institute a lockdown, of course, as a result of the spread of the coronavirus. So the president needing to be seen to be quite decisive last night in addressing the nation on what government's further steps would be in dealing with the further spread of the coronavirus. We're sitting at that number of 402, Leanne. And you'd recall when that press statement was released by the Department of Health yesterday, indicating that more than 100 people had been infected from the previous figure that had been given to us. And that would indicate about a six-fold increase over the past 8 days. So no surprise that President Ramaphosa had to put more stringent measures in place to ensure that South Africa is able to deal with this pandemic. You'd know that all the country's provinces now, Leanne, have a case of the coronavirus. And currently the president, of course, announcing in that a statement to the nation last night that more than 250,000 of people around the world are infected with the coronavirus. So this would obviously mean in the short to long term, Leanne, that we might go into a deep recession. And this would culminate, of course, in businesses closing, in job losses also. That will be the impact of what is currently taking place. So you heard the president also announcing a solidarity fund, which, of course, people can contribute towards. And that would go a long way towards helping some of the most vulnerable in society. So we're expecting the economic cluster to start their briefing at 10 o'clock this morning, where we will get a clearer sense in terms of the details following the president's announcement last night, government's detailed response to it in terms of, for example, how the Solidarity Fund itself is going to work, and also, you know, what then happens to small businesses. We know, of course, that the economic implications, not just for South Africa, but for the rest of the world, are going to be quite massive. On the horizon, on the cards, would be possibly a deep recession. So how does South Africa plan to deal with that? So the economic cluster is expected to brief us at 10 o'clock this morning. Indeed, Leanne, quite a number of press conferences have also been scheduled. There's another one from the social cluster at 4 o'clock, I beg your pardon, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and another press briefing from the crime and security cluster that will be taking place tomorrow. So you've got a number of ministers, of course, that form part of this National Command Council, who will then brief the media on exactly how all of this is going to unfold.
Chriselda, this economic cluster, because I think that this is a very important one, because we talk to SMMEs, we talk about the respective funds, but many people asking, there wasn't enough from business that was announced. You know, in many other addresses, we saw different governments around the world saying that banks have put this in place, a freeze on mortgages, rentals have been frozen for 4 months for shop owners and for other small retailers and for things like that. So are we hoping that we're going to get a lot more meat out of this? Because I think at this point, as South Africans wake up, there is more uncertainty now than ever before.
Well, that's right, Leanne. What we've gauged over the past few days is that there are some banks that have put a freeze on payments for small businesses, for example. And, you know, certainly a lot more would need to be done on the part of a business to come to the party in ensuring that they assist government in ensuring that you don't have in the long run a total collapse of, in particular, small businesses, which are likely to be extremely affected by this decision that has been taken. Certainly the South African government needed to take this. You really needed to balance between saving the economy and the state that we find ourselves in as a country, and balancing that against saving the lives of millions of people. And I think that is certainly something that came across very strongly in the President's address to the nation last night. First things first, save millions of people, but what needs to happen while that is taking place is that business would need to come to the party in addition to that to assist government to ensure that the long-run effects of this decision, in particular towards small businesses and other sectors of society, would be able to be cushioned going forward. So you're absolutely right, Leanne. A lot more would need to be done in terms of business coming to the party. We know, for example, that the President had announced last night 1 billion each from the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers. I saw quite a lot of commentary regarding that, where many others are saying that others should also come to the party to assist government in ensuring that there is some kind of cushioning, in particularly and for the poorest of the poor, the vulnerable. I think that's a conversation we're going to be having for the next couple of days. What exactly is going to be done to cushion the most vulnerable? The Solidarity Fund that I just spoke about is certainly one of the issues that government is putting in place to ensure that there is that kind of assistance that is being given to the most vulnerable. But, you know, Leanne, a lot more certainly would need to be done to ensure that the long-lasting impacts of this particular decision, which is absolutely necessary as a result of where we stand in terms of the figures. I mean, I made a reference to Rwanda, for example, that put that country on lockdown even before South Africa, and the numbers in that country are certainly far less than where South Africa stands at 402. So, you know, while the President seemed to be decisive in his action that has been taken, every single one of us would need to come to the occasion to ensure that there is some kind of cushioning for small businesses, for the most vulnerable in society, for the old, and the list is quite endless, Leanne.
Right, let's leave it there, Chriselda. Thank you very, very much. Remember, starting at 10 o'clock this morning, we will get an update from the economic cluster. Then 2 o'clock, the social cluster will be giving us an update. Who will be present is yet to be seen. What will be announced is also yet to be seen. But hopefully a lot more clarity will follow this morning.